Have you ever had the experience where your mind has changed or you've shifted position on something just like that? Well, I've had two of those happen in my life. One was recently. The first one was actually many years ago, and I had to drive 50 miles one way each day to work and back. And I was a road rager. I would get behind the wheel and that traffic and congestion, and by the time I got to work, I was frustrated and angry. And then one day, I was driving to work, and I was running late, and it was snowing, and the roads were icy, and the cars were backed up as far as the eye could see. I sat there in my truck feeling angry and frustrated that I was going to be late to work once again. But for some reason in that moment, I realized there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. I can't control the weather. I can't control the roads. The only thing I could control is what time that I had left for home, and I had left way earlier than I needed to in order to make it to work on time that morning, even with the snow. And yet, as the blizzard rolled in, the traffic slowed down, the highway became a parking lot, and I was going to be late for work. There was nothing I could do about it. And for some reason, in that very instant, my mindset changed. I realized there was nothing I could do about it. Not a thing. I can't control this situation, and I just have to let it go. I had music playing on the radio. My truck had plenty of gas. I was nice and warm, and I was just going to be late. And from that moment on, for some reason, I never experienced that same road rage again. I always was able to just let it go. It just rolled off my back. And in that moment, that was one of those times where my brain, it just flipped. The second time that it's happened to me in my life was just recently, just before I started this series on YouTube. Before then, when I was trying to do things on YouTube and trying to create videos, I was a real perfectionist. Now, if you have looked at any of my previous videos coming to this point at all, you'll realize that I have been able to let that perfectionism go. A really simple example, when I was making videos before, and I had things like text rolling in from the side or having a drop shadow on the text. If the text wasn't the right font, I could spend hours trying to figure out what's the right font, what's going to fit here, where's the right placement on the screen, is that drop shadow, is it big enough? And it doesn't matter. Things like that just don't matter. And I was able to let that go earlier this year, just before starting this video series. And what I realized is that it's progress over perfection. And that's something that I have struggled with for a long time in my adult life. If I'm doing something, it has to be perfect. And I think that has helped me excel in the business world, not so much in my personal life or on YouTube videos. So the motto that I have now, at least for this series, is progress over perfection. Perfection is something to strive for. It's not something to try to achieve before you can do anything. And that shift of progress over perfection is another point in my life where I was able to just shift and change attitude and have the experience where it all just came in at once. And I want to share that story and a little bit about me in hopes that I can help somebody else. Now, I realize right now this video might not get much traction. I have 8 followers, and the video that I posted yesterday has had 1 view, and that was my mom. Thanks, Mom. So right now, today, this video might not get much traction at all, but I hope that at some point, somebody who needs to hear this message, just like I needed to hear this message, will hear it. And I heard it over and over and over again from other YouTubers that I follow who just kept saying, don't wait. Yesterday was a great day to start YouTube. 2 years ago was a wonderful time to start YouTube. But guess what? Today, right now, is the best time to start YouTube. If you haven't started it yet, go ahead and start. If you're struggling with that perfection, it doesn't matter. The perfection will come over time. And actually, the perfection will probably never come to the point where everything is always absolutely perfect. But it's progress. It's one step in front of the other, until we get to where we want to be, production-wise, scripting-wise, shooting-wise. All of that will come over time. If we don't take the first step, then we'll never get to the last. Ooh, that was kind of dark. I don't want to get to the last step. I want to get to the middle steps. Okay, how about if we don't take our first step, we won't get to those middle steps where we're getting closer to perfection. And if you're watching this video right now, I hope it resonates with you, and that you too can have a mind shift, a position shift, an attitude shift, whatever it is that you need to make to get from that perfection block to realizing it's progress over perfection. And you too can experience a shift just like that. Now, going back to the story that I talked about earlier, I did that commute for about 13 years. Now, I didn't drive all 13 years angry like that. It was in the first few years that I had that experience. And so from then I was able to let it go and enjoy the commute. And as I drove and enjoyed the commute, things like music became just so much better. Listening to the radio. Okay, now I'm giving away my age because yes, back in the day, we actually used to listen to the radio as we drove. The morning shows and things, if you're old enough to remember, you know, you know. If you don't, you won't. But that experience really changed my life. It enriched my life. And hopefully this one right here has as well. And I'm going to enjoy the process of trying to be creative, trying to be more creative as I go along. Have some fun making these videos, because that's what it's all about. If I want to make anything out of these videos, it's some enjoyment, it's some fun, it's a creative release for me, if nothing else. Now, I hope that you have enjoyed this little story and this view into my psyche, and I will see you tomorrow.